Quinnipiac women's lacrosse team will advance to its first ever MAC tournament, but will they be able to compete with the MAC's best? And the women's golf team is heading back to the NCAA tournament, but are their opponents out of their league? Lastly, our analysts will debate our game of the week. You won't want to miss it. Bobcat Breakdown starts right now. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's edition of Bobcat Breakdown, brought to you by QU Online. Finish your degree early with Quinnipiac Online Summer Courses. I'm Emma Carmen, and I'm joined by MJ Baird and Sierra Goodwill. Guys, how are you doing tonight?
I'm great. Happy to be on tonight.
Ready to get to it.
All right, let's get started. The women's lacrosse team clinched their first MAC tournament berth in program history. They are still awaiting their opponent in the first round of the tournament. Sierra and MJ, what does playoff berth mean for this program?
I'll start it off. This was the only team on campus who really wasn't performing up to a postseason level for the past few years, aside from volleyball. Volleyball made that postseason run this year, and now women's lacrosse is just following suit. So if anything, it really just makes Quinnipiac athletics that much more well-rounded. And if you look at it, and if women's lacrosse is able to pick up a win and is able to kind of repeat this sort of success for the next couple of seasons, it's really going to help with their recruiting. If you look at it now, with the exception of one or two players, this team is made up of athletes from all the local states: New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, New Hampshire, Mass. It will expand them. It will make them able to attract players from larger states, from a larger radius, and overall really just improving Quinnipiac athletics.
Yeah, Emma, to answer your question, what does the playoff berth mean to the program? I think it means they're trending in the right direction. Kind of exactly what Sierra was just summing up. I mean, they have a first-year head coach in Tanya Kodowitz, and she coached for Marist back in 2008. She led them to their first ever MAC postseason championship, and actually their first NCAA tournament appearance. So clearly she's doing that with the Bobcats in their first MAC postseason appearance as well. And Quinnipiac women's lacrosse, just state the facts. They've won more games this year than the past 2 years combined, 3 this year, and 2 conference games the past 2. So they're trending in the right direction, and I think that's good for the program.
I agree with you guys. What is the biggest reason for the turnaround for this team?
I'm going to have to say, the freshman Ashley Bobinski, she's been a spark plug on offense. 17 goals, 9 assists. The New Jersey native came here to do exactly that, provide offensive production. She was a 3-time all-conference team in high school, finished her high school career scoring 12 goals in the New Jersey State tournament. She knows how to find the back of the net. She has brought this offense to life, and it's really just been the reason that this team is seeing postseason play.
Yeah, Sierra, you're completely right. I mean, for me, it comes down to like 2 things. One being maturity and one being confidence. And that really goes back to what I was saying about Kodowitz, the head coach. Look at some of the Quinnipiac's wins. Against Siena, they won 11-10. That's a 1-goal game. Against Monmouth, 12-11, 1-goal game. Iona, 14-13 in overtime. These are 1-goal games. It's all about the confidence and the maturity when you have close games like this. If you look at the schedule last year, Quinnipiac women's lacrosse wasn't even in 1 or 2 goal games. They were losing by 4 or 5 goals. And when they won, it was by 3, 4 goals. So to be in close games and to be on the winning side of those, that's very impressive. And it comes down, like I said, to the new head coach.
All right, now we will toss it live with the women's lacrosse player Allison Kuhn and Q30's own Shane Dennehy. Shane?
Thank you, Emma. We are here with Allison Kuhn. Allison, thank you for joining us tonight.
Yep, thanks for having me.
So when the preseason coaches poll came out, you and Manhattan were both picked to finish tied for last. What was your team's goal this season? Where did you want to finish?
Yeah, so our biggest goal was to make the playoffs. From the beginning, our coach TK told us we need 3 wins, and we did that. We came into Iona thinking, we need to win. Coming into Siena, we had to win that game. So just getting into the playoffs, representing Quinnipiac, representing women's lacrosse, we really just want to, support the community, and we love that the community is supporting us.
So initially when you guys joined the MAC, you really struggled, won 1 game 2 years ago and 1 conference game last year. You won 3 this year. What's the biggest difference between those teams and this team?
Yeah, so this team, wants to make a difference. We want to be better, and our coaching staff has really taught us this year that we can't settle. We have to be better than our past, and we have 28 players playing 30 minutes together, so that's really something that we're working on. And we've had great games, 1-goal differences, and we just need to put together a good 60 minutes.
It's your first time in the playoffs, so and you really want to try and avoid that "we're just happy to be here" mentality. So what is your mentality going into the playoffs this year?
Our mentality is we're going to crush Niagara, and then we're going to make it to the semifinals, and it's going to be, we're making program history here.
Obviously, they're building a new stadium. You've had to practice at all schools around the local area in Hamden. Had to play your home games at Yale. How has that prepared you guys to go on the road in the first round of the MAC playoffs?
Yeah, so we don't have a home field. Hamden Hall has been our home. Yale's been our home. Every away game is our home. So we're ready to travel to Niagara, another nice long bus trip, and we're excited. It's going to be our home.
All right, Allison, thank you. Good luck this Saturday.
Thank
Emma,
you.
back to you.
Thank you, Shane. The softball team had an exciting week after splitting the doubleheader with Army West Point on Thursday. Quinnipiac split doubleheaders with Iona and Siena on Saturday and Sunday, respectively. Guys, what will it take for the team to make playoffs? Do you think that they have a chance? MJ?
Yeah, I'll take this one first. I think this team has a very legitimate chance, and to be quite honest with you, what do they need to do to make the playoffs? They just need to keep doing what they're doing. They're 7-5 in the MAC. That's 5th place. 2 games in hand Quinnipiac has over every other team above them in the conference standings, and 2 games in hand over Fairfield, who's 1 spot below them in the 6th spot. And of course, the top 6 teams are going to make it. So just keep doing what you're doing. If you think about it this way, if they split every weekend the rest of the year, they're going to be 11-9. Last year, they were 11-9, and they made the playoffs at the 6th spot. Obviously, we saw that magical run to the finals of the losers bracket. But just keep doing what you're doing, and I think you'll be successful, and you'll be in a good playoff spot for this year.
I have to agree with you, MJ. You said Quinnipiac's 5th in the MAC, but 9 of the 11 teams are in it. They don't have any games left against those bottom 2 teams, so nothing is a gimme at this point. But like you said, if they split going forward, a sweep would be helpful just to really cement it in place. But this team has the capabilities, has all the pieces to make it to the playoffs. Herzog does have to be at her best. She slipped a couple times, slipped past few games, but she's the ace for this team.
Sierra and MJ, what will hold this team back if you don't think they would make it?
I really don't think there is anything that's going to hold this team back. I mean, maybe the fact that they're playing 3 out of their next 4 series is on the road. I guess you could say, okay, they're not at home. That might hold them back. But looking at the standings, I mean, they're the middle of the pack in almost all of the team standings that you look at, whether it be team ERA, team hits, teams run. It goes on and on. They're a middle of the pack team, and as you can see, that's where they are in the standings. I think they have 2 very reliable pitchers, Herzog as a junior and Abby Long, the freshman. What's holding this team back? Nothing's holding them back. They just got to stay on that plane where they are. If they start to go down, that's when they might get in trouble.
Once again, I agree, but there are 2 points of concern for me for this team that could possibly hold them back. Like you said, they're only 1-3 on the road, only have one win on the road, and these 3 crucial series that are coming up are all on the road. And like I said, Herzog has been having off games. She pitched 3 innings against Iona, gave up 6 hits and 6 runs. And then against Siena on Sunday, she pitched 3 innings again and gave up 9 hits and 7 runs. And there's not many people besides Abby Long, like you said, the freshman, who can really give her that much relief, who are up to her talent level. So as long as she gets back on track and really performs like she has been the first half of the season, this team will make the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that Casey Herzog is going to struggle when it comes playoff time. She's a veteran pitcher on this team, and she's one of the pitchers. You got to look at her good stats, 2 complete games, shutouts, no-hitters, 1-hitters. I mean, I just don't see her struggling come when it means the most.
We'll see if she can turn around.
All right, thank you guys. When we come back, the women's golf team has made history again, and the baseball team played St. Peter's in a 3-game series this past weekend. How did they fare? Stick with us. We will be right back. Coming up on Bobcat Breakdown.
Coming up on Bobcat Breakdown.
And welcome into Studio 125.
So what?
40
So what?
points. If you score 40 points in a basketball game, we all know you play Quinnipiac Intramurals. We all know you love to shoot the rock.
Well, if you think that's the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard, what I'm about to say, I guess, is going to be pretty ridiculous in your book, but I'm going to say yes, there is a controversy.
Line, getting ready to punch the ball as it lands right in front of another Monmouth player.
Coming up on hashtag that.
We are your source for Quinnipiac's entertainment news. All this and more.
Coming up on the Q30 Newscast.
Welcome back to Bobcat Breakdown, presented by QU Online. Finish your degree early by taking online summer courses. The women's golf team captured its second consecutive MAC championship and are NCAA bound after winning the match at Disney's Magnolia Golf Course in Lake Buena Vista, Florida. The Bobcats will find out their NCAA regional destination on Thursday, April 27th, live on Golf Channel. MJ and Andrew Badillo took to the touchscreen to break down some swings for the golf team.
As you can see, really smooth swing. Let's take a look at the replay and break this thing down. Let's scrub back a little bit and take a look at her at address. MJ, first off, really solid. Great hand placement, high, not too low. Take a look at this triangle she has going at address. It's a little bit hard on the touchscreen.
Tough angle here.
Tough angle, but the way she's extended, that is really important. To be good at golf, you have to have solid posture and you have to maintain that triangle throughout the swing. So let's take a look now. Okay. Right at contact, there you see it. She's got the triangle. It's a little off angle, but you can still see she's maintaining a really nice triangle at address. Really solid through contact, as you can see. All right, so Tobia, the defending MAC Player of the Year, #1 overall scorer in the MAC Championships last year. Tremendous golfer, but something that you notice, sorry, I'm going to bring it back to address. Something you notice a little bit is she seems to have a little bit more bend at the waist rather than in her knees. Kemling had a little bit more bend in the knees, and she hung her arms down a little bit lower. With Tobia, it almost looks like she's reaching a little bit. And again, you see
There's that triangle.
She's got a really nice triangle right there.
Watch the way she pulls up with her upper body, just that little tiny bit.
So she's picking the club, what you're saying, MJ, she's picking the club up right there.
Up with her whole body.
Up with her whole body, whereas golfers sometimes, it's a steeper angle that she's taking.
Right.
Sometimes you see them sweep a little bit more, but coming with a short iron, that's not uncommon to see players come at more of a steep angle.
Right. And here she is on the tee, Andrew, and you'll watch the swing once there, but I think this is kind of interesting because we can compare it to what we were talking about with Tobia earlier. It's definitely a different swing.
Most certainly, MJ. It's a looping swing. So she is basically doing what at least most golfers are taught to do, what I was taught to do with a drive, and you want to have a sweeping motion and wrap it, not so much around your body, but more of an arc. You want to almost vision yourself sweeping the ball off the turf, off the tee in this case. And Sazin did a really tremendous job of doing that. My line probably won't be on line with her swing, but you guys get the idea.
Not too bad at all, actually. Good line there. It's definitely more planar and flat.
Exactly.
That steep angle.
And you were saying it earlier. It didn't look like she made the greatest contact, but because she was aiming more to the right, playing for a draw, that ball most likely was able to come back.
That's all we have from the touchscreen, Andrew. Quinnipiac, they defend as MAC champions, and they're going to try their test again in the NCAA tournament. The selection show this Thursday, April 27th. You can find that at 11 a.m. on Golf Channel. For Andrew Badillo, I'm MJ Baird.
Thank you, Andrew and MJ. So what is the women's golf team ceiling? Sierra, you can go first.
So in the MAC, I really don't think this team has a ceiling. I think they can be successful year after year. Head coach John O'Connor is breeding a winning culture and a bit of a dynasty here on campus. And with freshman Alexander Sazen, who won MAC Rookie of the Year, Player of the Year, and Most Outstanding Player of the tournament, clearly the talent of this team isn't going anywhere. So in the MAC, in their conference, they don't have a ceiling. But I'm not sure I can fully answer this until I see where they're going in the NCAA regional, because there are a lot of dominant programs around the country in the bigger invitational that they participated in this season. They did finish middle of the pack, if that's any sort of indication. But however, this team is playing at its best right now. It finished second at the Wagner Invitational before the MAC Championship and obviously dominated the MAC Championship. So I think the ceiling's pretty high.
Yeah, Sierra, you're right. The ceiling in the MAC is that they can contend to win it every year. And you said it right. When you have freshmen like Alexandra Sazen coming in and winning the individual portion of the tournament as a freshman, you're just going to help your recruiting at that point. Sophomores like Julia Kemling and Luciana Tobaya, they are just the beginning of that amazing recruiting class that Quinnipiac and John O'Connor are going to begin to have. John O'Connor has even said it. This year was the best team that he felt he had here at Quinnipiac. But to answer the question, what is their ceiling? I mean, the ceiling is they're not going to get out of the NCAA tournament regional. This kind of reminds me of women's basketball, where their ceiling, a mid-major basketball conference was like the Sweet 16. Like, you can pretty confidently say that's as far as they're going to get. It's kind of like that. But making the NCAA tournament for a MAC golf school is like that is the pinnacle. It's like as high as you strive to achieve. They're ranked 209 out of 257 women's golf teams in the NCAA. I mean, they're going to make it to the regional whenever they win the conference, which, as we have already said, is pretty often. They should be in contention every year. But they need to be a top 6 team in their regional out of 18, and that's really not going to happen. They finished 18th last year. Granted, last year, first time in the NCAA tournament. Don't get me wrong, absolutely amazing feat. But I don't see them making it in the top 6 and moving on. It's just not feasible for a team from such a small school like this.
The Quinnipiac baseball team is now 7-8 overall in the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference. The Bobcats defeated the St. Peter's Peacocks in a 3-game series this past weekend in Hamden, Connecticut. Does this sweep mean anything for the baseball team? Do you guys think it's going to lead them to some more wins?
I think it means something, but how much does it mean? I mean, it means something to an extent, Sierra, and I think you can agree with that. Yeah. I mean, St. Peter's hasn't won. They have not won in the conference. They're 0-12. So I don't think you can go out and say, oh, this team is absolutely fantastic. They're going to win the MAC now. I mean, what do you think?
I agree. I mean, it means that they improved their conference record, which they desperately needed. Does it indicate that this was a big turning point? All of a sudden, they're on the track for success? No. Like you said, St. Peter's was 0-20 coming into this matchup overall. So no, it's not a big indication that this team has all of a sudden hit their stride. But what it does do is improve the team's confidence. They were able to get their bats on the ball. They were able to see some runs on the board, and that does say something.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they're 6-0 right now at home. 3 of those games come against a winless team. So anyone who says, oh, they're great at home, like, okay, half of their games at home come against a winless team. Yes, they're 6-0. That's the fact. The numbers don't lie. So if we just look a little bit, towards this team and their playoff chances, they have 3 series left in the MAC. So say they take all 3 from Manhattan, they get to 10-8. Take 1 from Canisius and 1 from Fairfield. That'd be 12-12. That wouldn't have made them in the MAC playoffs last year. So I think they're going to need to do more than that. And to be quite honest with you, with 2 of those 3 being on the road, I think they're going to struggle with it.
I agree.
Matthew Batten is a key player for the Bobcats. Through his 4 years in Hamden, he has over 200 hits and has set the program record for stolen bases. MJ, what kind of legacy will he leave at Quinnipiac?
Emma, Matthew Batten is going to be, if he isn't already, one of the best players to come through Quinnipiac.
Agreed.
I mean, his accolades are all there. Career batting average above 300. On-base percentage of his career above 300, 367. 87 strikeouts in 779 at-bats. I mean, these numbers just don't lie. You can go into what he's done here in the state. He played in the Little League World Series for Shelton. That's however many amount of wins you play on ESPN as a 12-year-old. That's pretty amazing. I wish I did. I didn't. But then you go and play down at St. Joe's in Trumbull, decorated career there. And, of course, here at Quinnipiac, he's going to break the hits record. I mean, he already has the stolen base record. He may be, when he's done here in his time, the best player to come through Quinnipiac baseball, especially doing it all here in his home state.
Like you said, MJ, clearly he can make contact. He'll probably finish first all time for number of hits in the Quinnipiac history. He's literally going down in the history books, but even more than that, I think if you ask anyone on his team, he's the definition of a leader and a leader by example. He's always in, taking extra swings. He's the person the team needs to lead on physically, for his physical skills, but also emotional motivation if they want a postseason run. Matt Batten has every leadership quality you would want in such a talented player.
Look at the hits. I was, looking at the stats here. The one player, he's in 5th right now in all-time hits. But if you look at number 6, John Delaney, his head coach right now. Interesting.
It is.
All right, when we come back, MJ and Sierra will give us their top 5 teams during 2016-2017. Which team has been the standout for you? You won't want to miss it. Stay right here. Coming up on Bobcat Breakdown.
Coming up on Bobcat Breakdown.
And welcome into Studio 125.
So what?
40
So what?
points. If you score 40 points in a basketball game, we all know you play Quinnipiac intramurals. We all know you love to shoot the rock.
Well, if you think that's the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard, what I'm about to say, I guess, is going to be pretty ridiculous in your book. But I'm going to say, yes, there is a controversy.
Line, getting ready to punch the ball as it lands right in front of another Monmouth player.
All this and more.
Coming up on the Q30 Newscast.
Coming up on hashtag that.
We are your source for Quinnipiac's entertainment news.
Welcome back. I know it's difficult to only pick 5 teams from this past year, but MJ, we'll start with you. Which teams are cracking your list?
All right, top 5 teams of this year. Well, first thing I want to say is I want to define what it means to be the best team and how I did my research on this and how I made up my list. To me, defining or being asked what is the best team, you take what a team is expected to do at the beginning of the year, whether that be taking just last year into consideration or their past 10 years. I don't care. So what they're expected to do this year and how well they achieved based on that scale. So that being said, we'll start with number 5. For me, women's golf. They won back-to-back MAC championships, and you can't say that's not true. It's so hard to defend a title. We just talked about this. I mean, women's golf, their ceiling is to win the MAC, and we talked about the recruiting, so I won't go back to that. But their back-to-back hardware is what really solidified them in the top 5 for me. And also, if you look at their youth, Sierra, you kind of talked about it with Sazin. I mean, a freshman, this team's just going to keep getting better, and they're my number 5.
Well, MJ, you said that you ranked your team based on their expectations, and then if they had exceeded them, you think that they should make your list. Well, golf team was expected to win the MAC since they did it 2 consecutive years. So my number 5 team is women's soccer, because last season they didn't make the tournament, and this season they found themselves in the MAC championship game. They competed with Monmouth in the regular season, pushed them to overtime. They shut out Canisius and Siena in the quarterfinals and semifinals of the MAC tournament. So this team really exceeded their expectations in my point of view, and Dave Clark has a bright future ahead.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I mean, when I say based on what they were supposed to do, but you can't take away from a team who's supposed to win. Granted, they were nubbed preseason co-favorites, and then does win. So moving on though to number 4. For me, men's soccer, same thing, preseason number 7, kind of similar to what you were saying with women's soccer, and then they win the regular season. They host the MAC tournament here at Quinnipiac. Obviously, they lose in the MAC finals, but They jumped right back from a bad season last year. Last year was an outlier. This team is perennially good. 2-11-6 last year, 13-7 this year. You know, that's a great bounce back. Number 4 team on campus for me this year.
Well, MJ, I'm not disagreeing with you on this one. I also have men's soccer as my number 4 team. They were battling injuries, especially to James Doig, their midfielder who's the heart and soul of this team, and to be able to still host the tournament and be able to compete in the MAC championship, very impressive.
Top 3 team on campus. I guess it might not mean much coming from me. I mean, I'm just sitting here on Bobcat Breakdown with you two lovely ladies. But number 3, women's volleyball. They made the MAC championship game after a season in which they won a conference game, a single one conference game. I mean, they clinched the program's first conference championship. They won more games this season in the conference than in the past 5 years prior combined. By the way, that dates back to the NEC, remember. And technically, Quinnipiac women's volleyball had the nation's biggest turnaround. 18 win difference. We're not talking about just the conference total wins. 18 win difference from last year to this year. That puts you in my top 3, women's volleyball.
Again, I agree with you, MJ, but I know Kyle Lavasser is turning over in his grave behind the scenes because he thinks women's tennis should be here, which I don't. They had an incredible season. They deserve to be recognized, but the turnaround for this team cannot be overlooked. Chad Davis, the new assistant coach, was a huge part of that turnaround. So they're my number 3 team as well. And I'm going to do the number 2 team
Please
now.
do. I was just
so it
gonna
doesn't
say.
seem like I'm just copying you every time. Number 2, women's rugby, 2 straight nationals championships, speaks for itself. Not only is it hard to win in such a physical game, they are crushing people. 213-0, 77-7, 94-15, just a couple sample sizes of their wins. Becky Carlson has created such a dominant program and culture. She gets the best players in the country, but she also gets walk-ons and makes them the best players in the country. So that's my number 2 team.
You stole the point right from me, Sierra. I was going to say the way this team recruits, they recruit athletes. They don't necessarily recruit rugby players. That is absolutely outstanding. It not only speaks to the team, but Becky Carlson. And take everything you just said without a home game, number 2.
Number 1, I think we both know.
Yep.
Women's basketball. This team put Quinnipiac University on the map, a Sweet 16 run as a number 12 seed, only the 4th number 12 seed to make a Sweet 16 ever in the history of the tournament since it expanded to 64 teams. Defeated number 5 Marquette, the number 4 Miami on its home floor. March Madness is enormous. Everyone knows about it. That's why this team was talked about for weeks on ESPN by Rebecca Lobo. Outstanding run for this Quinnipiac women's basketball team. They're number 1 this year.
Sierra, completely right. Women's basketball, number 1. Hamden, Albany, Miami, California. You followed them the whole time. I'm just going to let you take that one right away. Set a goal and reach it, and that's what the women's basketball team did.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys so much. Our game of the week is baseball versus Canisius, which will be a 3-game series this weekend beginning on Saturday. Who takes this one? Sierra, we'll start with you.
Sure. So Canisius is 2nd in the MAC, but is 7-5. Quinnipiac is at 8th at 7-8. They've won the same amount of games. The MAC standings are pretty much a gridlock, 2nd through 8th place. But Quinnipiac is undefeated at home in the MAC. They desperately
3
need
against St. Peter's, just saying.
You did mention that, and that is a good point. But they desperately need a good series. And having that confidence from the sweep against St. Peter's, I say Bobcats take 2 games, Golden Griffs take 1.
All right, I think that's very fair. I'm going to go the other way, though. I'm going to say Quinnipiac takes 1, Canisius takes 3. Canisius does have 3 games in hand on the Bobcats, though. So even if Quinnipiac were to come out and do like what you said, win 2 games to 1, Canisius still in good position. And I'm going to I said Quinnipiac will win 1. 2nd game of the doubleheader on Saturday. Nice weather. Fans will be out there supporting spring weekend here at Quinnipiac.
I'm going with Sierra on this one, just to add something in, because last season they did win 2 out of the 3 games, and that's when they were 10-14 in the conference, just to add a little something to it. All right, that will do it for this week's episode of Bobcat Breakdown. For more information, check out all of our content at theqbsn.com and at q30television.com. Also, follow us on Twitter at QBSN and at Q30Sports. For Sierra Goodwill, MJ Baird, and our production staff, and everyone behind the scenes, I'm Emma Carmen. Have a good night.